Hey fight fans, you're listening to BTR Boxing Podcast with me, Sean Bastow, and our co-host, Geordie Neild. Before we begin the episode, there's a couple of things that I want you to do. I want you to go onto Apple Podcast, subscribe. If you're not on Apple and you're on Android instead, go to someone like Podbean or Castbox and subscribe to us on there. Find all our latest episode, like the ones to watch, like the Legendary Nights and the Life and Times of, and the new series, The Promoter Life. Also, make sure you find us on Twitter at BTR Boxing Pod and Facebook BTR Boxing Podcast. I also want to take the opportunity to give a shout out to our sponsor for the podcast, which is Bear Attack Boxing. Bear Attack Boxing are a new company in the industry who specialise in high quality boxing gloves. So I want you to go over and have a quick look at their website, which is www.bearattackboxing.co.uk. If you're looking for some new gloves for the new year, new me start, you want to get over there and get some of their high quality products. You can get a discount up until the 12th of January by entering the code BAB2019 for a discount on them high quality gloves. You can also find them at Attack Boxing on Twitter and on Facebook, Bear Attack Boxing. Enjoy the episode, fight fans. Welcome fight fans to episode 4 of Ones to Watch. Now in this episode we've got welterweight prospect and super welterweight prospect Adrian Martin on the show today to talk about his career into boxing. He currently sits at 9-0 with 2 knockouts on his record, and he fights in the southern region, potentially looking at fighting for a southern area title by the end of 2019. He wants what everybody wants as a fighter. He wants to achieve. He wants to realise his dream. He's been through some ups. He's been through some downs. He'll talk about that during the episode, about his life going into boxing, some of the troubles he had as a child, what it was like on his professional debut, what it was like in the amateur game. Really great story behind it all, and a really great guy to speak to. So here it is, Ones to Watch, episode number 4, Adrian Martin. So I'm delighted to say I've got Adrian Martin on the phone, sat in his BMW, parked up, ready to do this episode. How you doing, Adrian?
I'm doing really well, thanks. How you doing?
Yeah, no, it's great to get you on and get you, get your story across to our listeners of our podcast and people that may not know you, up and down the country. Because I was saying before we started recording, you do a lot of the fights that you're in or involved in are down south. They're at the York Hall, or I know you've been at the O2 on one occasion as well. So it'd be good to kind of get different people exposed to yourself really and get to know you as a person. I want to hear about your story, and it's I think really the first place I want to start with is when was the first time you went to a boxing gym? What was it that took you to a boxing gym?
I love boxing. I mean, since I was probably about 4 years old, when my granddad bought me a little boxing set, and I was like just hitting this bag with my gloves on and everything. Like, it was pretty. But I know it's not. I wasn't a part of a club or anything. I just loved it. I always loved it, and I did loads of different martial arts growing up, but they never had like proper sparring martial arts. It's always like very limited contact. So I'd fall out of love with them for a long while, and then I really wanted to get into boxing when I was about 11 or 12 because I was getting bullied quite bad, and I wanted to get tough. And I was actually for someone who didn't box, I could actually box all right. When I'd spar my friends in my back garden, when my dad would let us put the gloves on and stuff, I could fight. And then I just really wanted to pursue it. But I went to this boxing club just outside Abingdon. It was inside an RAF barrack. I mean, when you're 11 years old and they're slamming a 5-kilo medicine ball in your ab and you're getting winded every time, boxing is not for you. Not at that age. But it really turned me off it because I was just too young to be going through that sort of brutal training. You can do that as an adult, but these guys, I won't speak ill of them, but they just didn't coach juniors very well. Juniors aren't seniors. You can't go smashing medicine balls on an 11-year-old.
So it put you off a little bit then at that point in your life.
Unfortunately, it did. Yeah, it put me off for a little while, and then I fell in love with other sports. I played basketball for my county for a couple of years. Then I got into athletics. I was a 400-meter runner for about 4.5 years, and I played rugby as well. So I was quite into that for a long time. And then when I was 17, I was just, like I've been through a bit of a bad time at school. Suffered lots of problems with mental health. I've been sectioned. I was getting in trouble in fights all the time. I've been arrested more times than I can count at that point. I just wasn't in a good place, and I wanted to. At first, initially, it was just to get tougher, and then I just fell in love with the sport. I just absolutely loved everything about it: the hard work, the discipline, the fighting itself, the training, the sparring was the thing that sold it to me the most. It was great. It was really good getting into it, and it sort of helped keep me out of trouble. After having got out of hospital when I was 14, I was 15 when they let me out. My life could have gone one way or could have gone straight back. So it helped me keep disciplined. I got into university and I was studying accounting and finance. And that's where I had my first amateur bout when I was at university.
So amateur career then, let's talk about it. What did you make of it when you first started out in the amateur? Because obviously you've got the headgear on, you've got the bigger gloves on, and obviously you go to like these little clubs and you box against guys from young lads from other clubs that are sort of in a similar position to yourself. What was it like for you when you first stepped in the ring to do that?
So yeah, it was interesting. I knew nothing about amateur boxing other than the Olympics. Other than the Olympics, I didn't know what the ABAs were or anything. Yeah, so I didn't really know what the best clubs around were or really too much about boxing. So it was sort of a stroke of luck that some of my friends from college went to amateur clubs because otherwise I may have ended up in the wrong white-collar or unlicensed club. Not that I slates it at all, because coached by the right people, some white-collar clubs and unlicensed clubs are better than amateur clubs, and they have better boxers. It all comes down to who's coaching in what gym. But when you first start, you're completely naive to it. I actually had the fortune of starting at a pretty decent amateur boxing club with Billericay ABC, where I learned a few basics, but because of the training days, I couldn't commit there. And then I went over to the amateur boxing club in Chelmsford for a little while. It was the structure was awful, and I went there to train because I loved boxing, but it wasn't the club for me. And then I went off to university, and I met my first ever coach, Gordon Charlesworth. And the reason I say this is my first ever coach is because the first person who really taught me boxing and took me through to the next levels and really helped me understand how hard this sport can be and how good this sport can be. I went through a lot with Gordon. I had my first 17 bouts with him, and I won my first championship with him, winning the British University Championships in, I think, 2011 to 2012 season. So he taught me a lot, and it was at that point I knew boxing was really all that I wanted to do. I really fell in love with the sport. I didn't really enjoy my studies. I hated accounting and finance. It was boring. Sat there reading all day and doing numbers all day. It was a headache, and I ended up leaving university. Took on a few other jobs. Went back to doing accountancy work. Was about to start my charter, and I decided that sort of life, that working in a suit life and all of that, was really not for me. And the only thing that I really was passionate about was boxing. It'd stolen all my thoughts, if you know what I mean. Everything was boxing, and I was at that time when I was working in accounts and everything. After I'd left university, I'd gone over to Brentwood Youth Amateur Boxing Club, which at the time was the best amateur club in Essex by a country mile. These boys, they had everyone there, and the coach there, Joe Taylor, he's still my coach today. I had a really good bond with him at the club, and he's taught me so much there is to know about boxing. Like, I learnt a lot with Gordon at first, and he really got some real mental strength in me. But I feel like Joe Taylor's like a technical wizard. He's taught me so much. I mean, you look at his CV as an amateur coach. He's had 2 senior elite ABA champions, and the rest, like, he's had female ABA champions, and the list goes on. Junior ABA champions and everything. He's a fantastic coach, and I feel very privileged that now we're on a journey, just me and him. him. It was when I was working in accounts that I decided that the best thing for me was to turn pro and to just give my honest best effort. I'd had 28 amateur fights. I boxed in the Haringey Box Cup, boxed in the ABAs a few times, and I could mix it up with anyone. And I just wanted to. I was sick of the bad decisions in amateur boxing as well. I mean, you talk to anyone who's boxed amateur, they'll all tell you the same story. You know, at one point or another, they beat someone up and lost.
Yeah.
And the only way they could have drawn was to knock them out.
Yeah, it seems to be a bit of a recurring theme, that, doesn't it, in amateur boxing?
Yeah. And then the thing is, I know boxing is it's all on a different perspective and everything, but I mean sometimes it's just ridiculous, you know. And you got to question people's integrity sometimes, and it's sad that you'd have to do it, especially in a sport that is amateur and it is not about money. It happens in pro boxing, as we see with Tyson Fury, that at least they got paid a good few million.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that is the big difference, though, isn't it, when you're at that level, is you might get the draw, but you think you've won the fight, but you're still walking away with a hell of a lot of money at the end of it.
At least you're compensated in some way or another. Your pride might be hurt, but at least your wallet isn't, no?
Yeah, exactly. So going back to your amateur career then, just quickly touching on it, was there any notable names that you could tell us about that you shared the ring with in the amateurs?
No, I don't. Not that I fought. I don't really think I fought any notable names. There were some lads that were good, that did well in the ABA stuff, but no, I didn't come across anyone. I think when I was boxing open class, the big names that were boxing then, they were either on GB, so GB wouldn't put them out, or they would only fight when championships came about. So you have to rely on good judging. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's pretty hard to come by as well, isn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it is what it is, isn't it? You know, I really would have liked to, but I mean, these guys, I've sparred them. You know, I've sparred some of the best in the world. I've sparred world champions and stuff, and I know where I'm at as a boxer. And I know I'm not world level yet. I'm going to say and who knows if I'll make it there. But I can see it's achievable to box at that standard of boxing. It just takes a lot of hard work, and it takes a lot of time. I think the best lad I've ever sparred is Josh Taylor.
Who's gone on to do a lot.
I've probably done 100 rounds with Josh Taylor, and he is fantastic. I mean, he just does everything a little bit better than everyone else. You know what I mean?
And he's showing it, isn't he, at the moment as well?
Yeah. I mean, he punches really hard for a light welter. You know, he punches really hard for a light welter. But it's not that it's an overly powerful thud. It's the snap and the thud. I think, you know, if he could pull that power up 2 weights heavier, I wouldn't like to spar him. Because that guy'd be a knockout artist. Well, he is a knockout artist as it is, but yeah, he'd be knocking out a lot of big people as well.
Let's talk about your pro career then, Adrian. Let's have a chat about that and see, you know, where you are. You're currently 9-0 at the moment with 2 knockouts on your record. You started in 2015. Back end of 2015 was your debut at the York Hall. What was it like making that professional debut? What was the feeling going into it?
It was amazing. I mean, when you first turn professional, you're filled up with a lot of delusions because you've got an idea of how your career is going to go or how professional boxing works, but you don't actually know about it till you're in the business, if you know what I mean. But you're so buzzing. You've just become a professional in something you love. Your training camp is so spot on. It's probably 10 weeks too much training you need. Especially for a 4-round fight, you're doing 10 weeks training too much. But with me, when I turned pro, I signed my contract and everything in like July or June with Steve Goodwin, and I just spent months and months and months changing from an amateur style to a professional style, and that's what Joe was really good with, and we found that I much more suited the pros than I did the amateurs. All that quick point scoring stuff, it wasn't for me. That wasn't my style of boxing. Just tapping in quick shots and moving, working at 100 miles an hour. And as an amateur, I couldn't really punch all that hard because I was never really sat there I was never really sat on my shots enough to deliver a proper punch, or because it was all so rushed. You know, being tall and slim, you don't really get the time to sit down on the shots. But as a pro, you can sit on them, you can think. And although I've not got really a puncher's record, yeah, I've put 2 away, and I probably should have put more away, and I nearly have. But I know I can hit a hell of a lot harder than what I did, and I much prefer the longer rounds, the time to think, even the people coming at you with bad intentions, not just trying to tap and that punch is scoring, but then having no effect, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I understand.
And Joe really took a lot of time to, I was tall and I was used to standing up tall, to get me to bend my knees and sit lower on my shots, get my hand and trunk defences working a lot better, and it made me a lot more confident as a boxer, because I've always had a really good chin, but I was never really confident enough to, I'm not saying you should use the fact that you've got a good chin, but knowing you've got a good chin, you can be a bit braver with the shots you look for, the shots you throw, you know. And now I'm more confident to just tuck up and return rather than always look to run away, because that's what it was like in the amateurs. You've got to move off, score your points and move, and this, that and that. Spending a good like five months just preparing for my pro debut it was brilliant. Just all the work we put in that time was, I mean, he was training me 5 times a week even before we started properly going hard for my pro debut. I considered doing an unlicensed fight before, just to get a test on selling tickets and fighting with our head guys, but I just said the same thing. Just focus everything on turning pro and I was sparring developed at this point, and then we started properly training for my debut, and a good friend of mine, Scott Douglas, was basically my sparring partner throughout the whole process, and I learned so much off him because he was a bit of a seasoned pro, and it really helped prepare me for the debut. And then coming out, having everyone there who bought tickets and just a crowd cheering for you and everything, it was like, this is my moment, this is my time to shine, and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to enjoy it. And I enjoyed it. I beat a geezer having his debut as well, a fellow called Gabor Balog. He's gone down the journeyman route, but I tell you that we both wanted to win that fight. Yeah, both of us on our debuts. It was a cracking fight, you know, and it was the best feeling ever. Winning your pro debut is like, I can't even describe it. It's amazing.
You've gone on now, Adrian. You've got 9 fights under your belt now, and you've got the experience now. You've moved up from 4 rounds to 6 rounds in your last 2 fights. Was there any difference in that? Because I mean, I can imagine you probably train, for a lot more rounds in the gym, but moving them extra 2 rounds up, was it any different in your last 2 fights?
No, I do the rounds easily, and that's not saying it big-headedly. I'm quite a fit guy, so doing the longer rounds works in my favour. I get better as the rounds go on. The more rounds there are, the better it is for me. I was supposed to do an 8-rounder in my 5th fight where I boxed for a challenge belt, and I stopped him in 4. 6 rounders are great. Yeah, no, it's no real difference than 4 rounds. You just get into the fight more. It's a better feeling. You feel like you've had a proper fight. The more rounds you do, the better it feels, I think.
You take your time a little bit more though as well, can't you? You can take your time a little bit more. You don't have to rush.
Yeah, but not just that. When you come out of it, you've battled, you know. If I go and have a 10-rounder or a 12-rounder, hopefully down the line I'll be having them. You're going to come out and you've battled. Win, lose or draw, just that feeling of having battled it out, and you both come out. You're both victorious in your own way, you know. Obviously, you want the win, it goes without saying, but that feeling there of doing that long distance, being able to do that long distance and digging deep, and especially, I don't want to have every fight a toe-to-toe war battle. I'll end up punchy. I really don't want that. But when you have a fight like that, I want to, at one point in my career, I want to have a fight like that. I want to be pushed to do that, because so far I suppose I've played a bit safe with some opponents. I've been outboxing them comfortably enough to not have to go looking for a knockout. because throwing your overweight against someone who doesn't deserve it isn't good, is it?
Yeah, no, definitely
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's not like I'm being overly cautious, but I think sometimes I could maybe force the pace a bit more because I've got the energy to do it. But yeah, no, the longer rounds are much better. I think my next fight is probably going to be another 6-rounder just because of it's a cost factor. I'd be boxing my last 2 fights. I probably would have boxed 8-rounders had it not been a cost factor.
Of course, yeah.
No, you're boxing the same sort of opponent, but one's costing you like $3,500 and one's costing you 2,600 quid or something, you know.
Yeah, and
I just can't justify spending $3,500. It's not even justified. I don't think I can afford it. You know, you've got to sell like a silly amount of tickets, and then you're not getting paid. So if you're fit, you know that you can. And you can do the rounds, then you do your 6-rounders for your experience or whatever, and then you go on to your eliminators for titles if you qualify for them, or for your big domestic clash or whatever. And I trust Steve. Steve's got a good management plan. And I've asked him a couple of times, let's jump on to 8-rounders. And he goes, hey, you're fit enough to do 8 rounds. You're fit enough to do 10 rounds, you know. But there's no need because you can just spend extra money that you don't need to spend. So he advises us quite wisely on career moves, you know. And he wants us to just position ourselves so that we can go for the best thing at the best time, you know.
Yeah. Who would you say the toughest road warrior would be that you've been in the ring with so far?
My last fight, I lost 2 rounds, but he wasn't the toughest. I really wasn't phased. He just tried harder, but I thought I won every round. But Bob said one of the rounds was a bit tit for tat, and then the other, could have gone the other way, and then I lost one round. And I actually looked back, and I think, I did lose one of the rounds. After having watched it back, I could see that I didn't work enough. Even though I landed probably the better shots, I got caught with a couple of overhands that they didn't hurt me, so I didn't really register them as having landed, but they landed, you know. So he took a couple of rounds off of me. It was a bit of a surprise. I nearly stopped him in the 6th, but I think another round he was out of there. He was gone. He had nothing left in the tank, the geezer, and I was still good to go. But no, he wasn't. I think there was a lad called Jordan Granham. Now I won every round, but that guy got a lot more in his shed than what he lets out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know Jordan pretty well. I've seen him on the circuit up here in the Northwest, and he's fought a lot of Northwest fighters as well, and I've seen him a few times, and his record definitely doesn't do him justice as an away fighter, like a lot of them, really. There's a lot of them like that out there, as you know. Yeah. He doesn't really justify the records, however, but
he doesn't like coming out of a fight with a mark on his face. So the minute you give him you give him a thing, I'm going to get caught here, it's going to be a hard night's work. No, he just leave it out. But he can punch. He's got a good punch on him. He's heavy-handed. He's fast, and he moves well. You know, if you watch his debut against William Warburton, he was looking to be a good prospect. So, I know he changed from being a home fighter to a road fighter, but that boy's got a lad called Arvidas Trisnov. He was pretty decent. He just had a guard you couldn't get through. Didn't really throw much, but he had a really good guard and a lot of ring craft. So it wasn't one you would really stop. But those two probably. But I think out of all of them, notably the best boxer has been Jordan Granham. I could see it in the way he moved and everything. Kind of at stages, like I wanted him to open up more because I wanted everything to come back from him. Do you know what I mean? Because I wanted to feel everything he had. And a couple of times he did, and we traded a few blows and stuff. But then he went back to doing what he does, and it was good to see what I still think I could beat someone like that, even when they're out for the win. But a fighter would say that, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I think a lot of them do.
But I definitely think there's a lot of people he could beat.
I'm going to ask you another question about your career. Obviously, now I was talking about your record and obviously being 9-0 now, and you fought twice 2018, but you was quite active the year before. Was there a reason why you wasn't as active in 2018?
Yeah. I won't delve into it too much. I had a lot of personal issues going on.
Okay.
a lot of things going on at home, and didn't know if I was even going to fight at all this year. Last year in 2018, I didn't know if I was going to fight at all because of things going on. I wanted to. I'd love to have fought 5 times, but then it looked like I was. Then I came back and I fought Jordan, and things stood, and then something. Well, my engagement ended, and I sort of went off the track a little bit, and I boxed again. I called Steve up because I knew I was going a bit south with everything. So I called Steve up and I was like, Steve, get me a fight sharpish. I'm not, obviously broken up with the ex and gone a little bit south of everything. So I need a fight. I need a focus. I need to get back into it. Before, the reason I didn't fight, I want for, not for my sake, but for someone else's privacy. I won't say anything, but wasn't going to be able to fight because I didn't even know if I could train because of things going on at home because of their health and stuff. So yeah, no, it's been a bit of a stressful year, and then I was scheduled to fight in December, and I got the flu, and I rang Steve up, and I was like, Steve, I'm not really feeling right at all. Sure as I said it, 2 days later, I was gone. I rang up my coach, and I had no voice to really speak. I was coughing out all sorts of green and yellow. It was horrible. Well, can't box, and I rang Steve, and he goes, it's not worth risking the road. I was going to box a lad called Angel Emelov, and he's a tough customer. Although he doesn't win much, he comes and comes and comes and comes and comes, and when you're sick, it's not the ideal kind of opponent. And I fought when I boxed Andre Moravec in my last fight, I was ill. When I did my weight cut, I didn't do it properly. I cut too much fat out of my diet, and if you don't eat enough fat, you get exposed to viruses and stuff. So I got ill as a result, and I fought in my second pro fight. I boxed a lad called Ivan Duvanchik, and I had flu then as well when I boxed him. And although I won both the fights on points, I believe that me feeling fresh would have had them out of there no problem. To stop these two boys without really any fuss, any dramas. So when it comes to doing another fight and not feeling 100%, I was like, no, I'm not going to go and put a dishonest poor performance and get another win just cruising through a fight, because people are paying good money to come and see me, good money to come and support me. As much as I want my career to progress, I've also got to give them what they're paying for. And if I'm sick, not only can I risk throwing away the O, but I can just go in there and put on a shit performance and just sort of ruin the whole thing, the whole experience for them as well. On small hall shows, they're out to support you, not to see the top of the bills or anything, unless you've got a TV fighter on fighting on a small hall, because people don't know small hall fighters other than their friends and following or people within the boxing circuit.
2019 then, Adrian, let's talk about it. You've talked about how your career's gone so far. You've talked about obviously 2018 not being the greatest of years, and everybody has personal problems at some point in their life, and it's held you back a little bit because of it. But 2019, it's a new year now, and ideally, how many fights would you want to see yourself in this year? Would you be looking at 4 or 5 fights again, and maybe even looking at trying to push on for if you can, even an area title by the end of 2019? Area
or above, I'd fight. I'm game. I'll fight for area, English, whatever opportunity comes about. I know they're both 10-round belts. So if I can get my ranking's gone down quite a bit. I was ranked in top 20, not top 20. I was ranked in the top 30. I think I was like 25th at one point, or 26th at one point. And my inactivity pushed me right back down. So I need to get active. I need to get fighting, push myself back up to where I should be, in amongst it all, and get myself in a title contention position for either Southern area or an English. If I don't win one this year, I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to reconsider, not reconsider my career as a whole, but I've really got to think about what I'm gonna do next with boxing, because it's my 4th year as a pro, and I want to go on and I want to win things and I want to earn money out of boxing. I do it out of the love, but I want to get paid. I want to earn a good living out of it. I want to be able to retire comfortably and everything. I think we all want that. So I've got to make something happen this year. Yeah, so I think my next fight would be obviously a bit of a tune-up against someone tough, someone tougher than what I fought before. But be probably another tune-up, and then we're going to look at either fighting eliminators for whatever, or just push on towards whatever's out there. I mean, if Steve thinks I'm half French, so if Steve thinks it's a good idea to look at going down the French route, we can look at that, fighting for a French title, or if he wants to, if he thinks it's a good idea to look at, I know there's like WBC something, IBF something, WBO, WBA, whatever. I mean, like Conor Ben basically felt against. You know what I mean? Mine was an international challenge belt. His was a WBA Continental, but the caliber of opponent was the same. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So it just depends where we end up this year. But I've got to fight for something. I wanted to fight Conor Ben, but I got quite a good bit of feedback on social media. Had like 100 retweets and 5,000 views on a little video I posted. Thought maybe I'd get something, but he just replied on Instagram, "Oh, I'm a different league, I'm a different breed." And I was like, "Oh, well, fight me then." So I got no response. So that's clearly not going to happen. So now I've just got to focus on pushing myself up the rankings and looking at what's out there at welter or super welter. I can do both the weight. So whatever weight is best for me, Steve will put me up for it. I can make welter and I feel strong at super welter. So something's got to happen here. And I've not stopped training since Boxing Day. I've trained every day. Some days 3 times a day. I am really coming at this year hard. I want to be as active as possible, and I want to try and fight 4 or 5 times. Any less is just not enough. If I'm going somewhere with this, which I believe I can, any less isn't enough.
I understand it, Adrian. I really do, and obviously there's guys like yourself that are out there that you're 9-0 now. You kind of, there's this anticipation at this stage of your career to sort of push on and move on and look for them, the sort of Southern area titles or English titles, or like you said, you're half French. There's a possibility to stake a claim for a French title. So there's a few opportunities there that should really, present themselves at some point, hopefully in 2019. And I know Steve, and I know obviously what he does with his fighters. He does a brilliant job, in kind of putting them down the right path. But obviously it's hard. He's got such a stable of fighters that he's got to accommodate. That I can appreciate. I appreciate that he's got to keep pushing the right people in the right direction at the right time. And obviously he's got a difficult job in doing that. But for you, this year's about getting back to consolidating and then pushing on by the end of 2019. And I think it leads me nicely on, Adrian, really, to sort of come towards the end and find out about like sponsorships. And I don't know whether you've got them or whether you don't, but if you do, give them a shout out. Make sure you let them know who they are.
Yes, definitely. I'm very, very grateful to have Andrew's Construction Recruitment sponsoring me. I also have Forest Freight Limited sponsoring me, and One Diamond Empire sponsoring me. And without their help, this would be a hell of a lot harder. I mean, I work sort of not quite full time, and that's thanks to the sponsors that give me a break financially, that and also help with the ticket sales so that I get on the bills. Without them, this career is a difficult one. I don't know if it'd be possible in the way it is without them. So I'm very, very grateful. Thank you.
And where can anybody who may be looking to sponsor a fighter in the Southern region, where can they find you on social media?
So on Instagram, it's Adrian Martin 1, and on Twitter, 1 Adrian Martin, and on Facebook, just Adrian Martin. Drop me a message, I'll reply.
Brilliant. So, final thoughts then for 2019. If you think about it in your mind now, just give me a one-shot answer. Where would you want to be at the end of 2019?
Southern area or English champion, no less.
Fair play. I really hope that you get the fights that you're looking for. I really hope that it comes off, and maybe you will get a big domestic fight coming up towards the end of the year. And it's been a pleasure to get you on the show, and it's been a pleasure to hear about your story going into boxing, the amateur route, the university side of things. Everything that you do. Yeah. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, and I really appreciate your time, Adrian.
Thank you very much, Sean. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me.
So there you go, another episode of Ones to Watch with Adrian Martin. Seems like a genuinely great guy to speak to, a genuinely down-to-earth guy who just wants to succeed in boxing like they all do. So if you've really enjoyed the episode, make sure you let Adrian know your thoughts on his story. Follow him on social media. For us, you know where to find us: on Twitter at BTR Boxing Pod, on Facebook BTR Boxing Podcast. Subscribe on Apple Podcast or subscribe on Podbean, or you can listen to the podcast on the YouTube channel Eat Sleep Boxing Repeat. We are on all available podcasting apps, and all that I ask for delivering this content is that you go on, you rate us, you review us, you subscribe, and you share the episodes around social media. That is all. So guys, I really hope you've enjoyed it. Leave us some feedback, let us know. Enjoy it, fight fans.